The best indicator of somebody's future performance is what have they been up to so far. So when I see somebody, if you meet a young guy that's 18 and he's finishing high school, how much accomplishment is he supposed to have at 18 or 19 or something, So, something like that, you could be open-minded or permissive, be like, well, he seems ambitious, can he follow instructions? So, okay, he seems to follow instructions, does he show good judgment in this or this or this circumstance? You got to spend a little time around somebody to feel that out, And and if you met a young kid, like I'm saying, that's 18, 19, and seems ambitious and can follow instructions, generally shows good judgment, seems to be committed to a shared cause, has loyalty to that shared cause, has general loyalty to you, and vice versa, then if you spend some time with somebody like that, you could give them increasing responsibilities, and if they don't drop the ball, then you continue to increase their responsibilities over time, When you find somebody who's 35 and they have accomplishments similar to an 18 or 19-year-old, nobody's talking to them. I'm not talking to them at all. It's filtered out immediately. Just like, you're 35, and what have you been up to? Nothing? You good at video games? Okay, sweet. But what are we going to talk about? There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to talk about. I wouldn't hire him to do anything. They wouldn't be qualified to do anything in my life. I don't want to be around somebody like that. So I think there is an urgency to do things like that. To demonstrate that early in life, early in life. I talked with Leoto's children about this, Leoto Machida, who's my coach next week again. So he asked me to talk to his children about a few things, and I started to ask him, what do you want me to say? And I laughed. I said, never mind, I know what to. And he just wants me to say what he would tell them, but in my own words. So, we have a lot of in-depth conversations that. Now, he came from a different background where I was like a feral child with no structure, and I had to create a lot of rules and structures for myself. And from him, he had a Japanese father that was extremely structured, and his father was a martial artist, and I think his grandfather was a martial artist, and it was determined before he was born that he was going to be a martial artist. And his brothers, so you could say, oh, no wonder he's champion. Well, his brothers had the same general childhood. And they're not world champions, they're just good martial artists. So that's not quite fair to say. A lot of that is he wanted to go above and beyond. But but those structures, there was a lot of structure and a lot of rules early. And it's a conversation that he and I have frequently, and somewhat repetitive. But there's always an extra little nuance. Is like we talk about how did we develop those structures, or what was that like from his perspective to follow instructions from his father, and then go on to be a leader later. And I say, talk about being in a more chaotic environment from my perspective, and saying like, well, you have to create rules for yourself. Like, well, I can't do, when I see people that use, I never see it lead to a good outcome, so I should just skip that. When I see people, using methamphetamine, I don't see them achieving the results that I'm hoping to get for myself. So probably should stay away from that. When I see people that drink excessively, again, those type of things. So like, we're gonna avoid a lot of things like that. And then you start building more sophisticated rule sets over time of like, if I want to, I had a rule in college where. Everybody here did this to some extent, but how many of you were in university or in some other context where you had some homework or some chores to do or some responsibilities to take care of, studying for an exam, whatever it might be, and you suddenly realize, like, you know what? I haven't counted my forks in the silverware drawer for such a long time. And you suddenly remember, I got to do that load of laundry too. And you start finding distractions, yeah? So I presume many of you have had this same experience, maybe all of you. So I'd be like, all right, asshole, if you want to get up, anytime you want to get off from where you're seated, so I'd have, at that time when I had this, I remember I had 7 classes, and I'd have a little workstation. It was like midterms were coming. So I'd have a little workstation on one side of the couch, on the other side of the couch, and on a love seat, and on a chair, or the dining room table, the other side of the dining room table, etc., in different topics that I could bounce around. And as long as I was making progress, then I tried to be like, give myself permission to shift from one topic to another. If you kind of felt like you hit a wall somewhere, say, all right, we'll go work on that for a little while then. But I was a little frustrated with myself for finding those little procrastinations, or get distracted with this or that for a minute and pretend you're being productive, but you're really not. So now I would just say, all right, anytime you get up, you got to do 25 push-ups. If I stand up, I got to do 25 push-ups before I do anything else. And then suddenly you can sit there for longer. And if you choose to not sit there, then you're still doing something productive. You're not punishing yourself. You're just like, all right, if I'm going to do something, whatever it might be, then I have to be productive in this other context before I could go do that, So it's not necessarily a punishment to yourself, but you say, all right, I'm going to do something that's a little annoying that maybe I don't want to do, that'll help me focus more here. And if I choose to not focus here, then at least I have to do something else productive that's adding to my life in some other way. Does that make sense? So they're just an example, but there's numerous rules. If there's no rules, nothing happens. If you don't have any rules in your head, then just anything is acceptable. Any standard of behavior is acceptable. And you probably have a low standard of behavior overall, or it might not be low. It might be a 80th percentile or 90th percentile standard of behavior, and you'll end up in the 80th or 90th percentile of society. And if you're okay with that, then okay. But probably that's not why you're here. Probably not why you came here. So if you want to, back to a comment I made, if you want to have exceptional outcomes, you're going to have to demand exceptional things of yourself. And you only get so much willpower. So I suggest to all of you that you got to use that willpower to create a new habit, that you use that willpower to focus on one thing and habituate yourself to engaging in that behavior. I presume for most of you, it's not really a chore to brush your teeth, once or twice a day. That you just created a habit that I brush my teeth when I wake up, I brush my teeth before I go to sleep. They tend not to fall out. Good deal. So you just created a habit. It doesn't take any. Do you need to use your willpower to brush your teeth as an adult? But maybe as a child you did. Maybe you didn't like it. So you have to habituate yourself to things, to that level. That did it take a lot of willpower to put your shoes on today? No, you're in the habit that you probably put shoes on before you go outside. So then you just create other habits in your life, and then you have to maintain those habits because you slack off on the habits. Then you got to use your willpower to get yourself back on track, and you only got so much willpower. So now you're interfering with the other productivity that you could have had, and you're going back to fix something that you broke because you didn't maintain the habit. So build a good habit, habituate yourself to that habit, keep it running. You have the discipline to keep it running, which doesn't take a lot of discipline. You just have to allocate the time. That all right, this is important. I got to do this every day. Right? And then you take your willpower and go build a new habit. And then go take your willpower and go build a new habit. That'll get you pretty far. It'll get you farther than most anybody. Nobody does that. Nobody wants to do that. Because your dumbass friends say, let's go smoke weed. We'll play a video game. We'll watch a baseball game together. How much you get paid for watching fucking somebody else play sports? Yeah. So one of my friends, he used to play pro football. He was a professional football player in the NFL. And if he watches football, I'm like, all right, that makes sense. He made a lot of money. His life is paid for. And if he wants to watch football once in a while, it makes sense to me, Or, I watch the fights once in a while. I go there in person more than I watch it on television or on a computer, but I watch the fights sometimes. But it's like, my friend will be, last week in Montreal, Valentina was the co-main event, and what's his name, Bilal Muhammad was the main event. And I know both of them. They've been here. We've done numerous things together. It's not weird that I watch. If your friend was in the main event of the thing, you probably watch the thing. That makes sense. But if you're just watching random shit, and worse yet, maybe drinking or something while you're doing it, I don't want these type of people around. You have to avoid these people. It's better to be by yourself. It's better to be by yourself and build yourself up, which goes back to closer to your core question. Better to be alone and build yourself up. If you want to be around other high quality or high productive people, you have to be one of those people. You don't get to hang out with them because you want to. You get to hang out with them because you're one of them, and you both feel that and see that about each other. And who else would you hang out with? You'd hang out with other people that are mostly like you. And then, they have some differentiated skill sets that you could be useful to each other in some way. But the product, you have to go do something first, or you're gonna be hanging out with people that are like you. And that key part that I mentioned a minute ago, it's like better to be alone for a while and improve you, and then go back and find other people that are have momentum and are new and improved themselves in some way. But I don't want a team of losers around. And I think one more comment about that, when you say having a team of people around you, is like you have to keep your commitments to them too. If you say that you're going to do something, you have to do it always. So I'm extraordinarily fussy about that. It feels like it sounds dramatic, and other people don't think this way, but it's because they suck. But when you tell somebody you're going to do something and you don't do the thing, it is like an extreme betrayal. It's really a despicable thing to do as a human. And all the humans do it to each other. Almost everybody. And if you behave like the other people do, they're going to treat you like they treat other people. And if you tell them, hey, just so you know, if we make a plan together, there's a 100% chance that I'm going to show up and do that thing. And if you're the type of person that there's only a 99% chance the first time that you don't do the thing that you told me we're going to do, I'm just never going to speak to you again. I'm not mad. I don't think you're a terrible person, but you're just a person. You're just a normal person. That's what normal people do. And I'm not a normal person, and I don't want to be around normal people. So if you want to spend time with me, you might not, and that's okay. But if you do want to spend time with me, I'm going to do my part 100%, and I fully expect you to do your part 100%. And if you only do it 99.8%, I'm not going to be able to speak to you again. And I wish you well, but not with me. And you can't ask that of people if you're not that way yourself. If you say you're going to do something, you have to show up and do the thing. I would make myself sufficiently useful that I wouldn't give a fuck about that job, and I wouldn't give a fuck about that person. And if they're not showing up to meet their obligations, I'd be delighted to have them out of my life and be doing something else.
This is Derek Moneyberg, inviting you to join us live on Monday, August 18th, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. We're going to do a live Q&A open to the general public. The biggest winners and most prosperous people in the audience, you're welcome to join. You know who else is welcome? Even the losers and haters. Even you're welcome to join, you poor things. You poor things. We see if we can help banish a little of your ignorance. I know it's going to be tough. There's a lot of ignorance, some of you. But we're going to help banish a bit of your ignorance. We're going to show you some better ways to get some brighter days in your life. Yeah, man, we talk about anything you want to. We can talk about my new black belt. We can talk about some finance, some prosperity like that. We can talk about entrepreneurship. We can talk about real estate riches. We can talk about anything. Open Q&A, open to the public, even losers and haters. I'm going to help you be a bit more prosperous, banish a bit of your ignorance, do a little bit better in life, see if you can have more prosperity, more winning, more of all the good stuff. Then you won't be a hater no more. Show up live. I'll see you soon.